These are just some of the ways that the Chamber has kind of shifted its capacity in an effort to continue to serve the business community through this difficult time. But it is a difficult time, and we understand that professionally and personally, it impacts people in very different ways. And I think that's what today's webinar is about, talking through that anxiety and that uncertainty. And I am really, really excited to have Diana Zelvin with us today. Now, Diana, I'm going to read you a little bit of her bio, but she's a good friend. She's been connected to the Chamber for many years. She's very active in North Brooklyn as well in terms of the business community up there, and we're excited to have her present today. Diana Zelvin is a licensed clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, a business coach, and a business development advisor who has been helping individuals and organizations grow, change, and flourish. Since 1995, she has had a psychotherapy practice specializing in anxiety, depression, trauma, professional growth, and dealing with life's challenges. After receiving her master's in social work from Fordham Graduate School of Social Service, she worked at Woodhull Hospital Inpatient Psychiatry. She advanced her psychoanalytic training at the Institute for the Psychoanalytic Study of Subjectivity and the National Institute for the Psychotherapies, as well as specialized training at the Institute for the Center of Contemporary Psychotherapy. Her coaching and training was with the Institute for Life Coach Training. She's got a long history coaching business owners, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs through some of the anxiety that they experience at different points in their career. And we're very, very excited to have her here today. I would encourage you to ask questions. To ask a question, you can use the Q&A feature, which is at the bottom of your screen. You just type those questions into that panel. And then Samara Karasik on our team, she will be moderating the Q&A. And that's kind of how it's going to flow. So Diana's going to open it up, do a little bit of a presentation, and then we're going to get more into some of your questions and concerns. So Diana?
Hi, Randy. Thank you. And that's such a warm welcome. And thank you to the Brooklyn Chamber team for putting this together, and really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. It's really incredible. So, you know, most of you are here today because you're trying to figure out how you wrap your head around our new reality, and you want to feel better. You want to feel less anxious and calmer. So, sorry, that's what we're going to talk about. These strategies are just planting seeds. I don't expect in an hour you're going to change entirely how you feel, but you're going to I'm planting seeds to help you with tools that you can always have, but especially now. And so I want to help you to feel calmer and empowered, optimistic, hopeful, and we're going to talk about building the resiliency muscle that you already have, because your emotional well-being is critical for your focus and your decision-making for your business. I think that's a really important point to remember, that it's not only to feel good, but it's because it's going to help your business. It's going to help you moving forward. So I probably don't need to tell you any of this. You know, the whole world's on an emotional roller coaster. Our feelings changing every moment, every hour, every week. And it would be unrealistic if they weren't. And everybody has their own way that they're going through this moment in time. So don't compare yourself to others. Be kind to yourself, and don't be hard on yourself, because you're gonna hear stories about this business is totally innovated, or this person's training for at home, they're training for an Ironman, or this one's writing the great American novel. You just focus on what you can do with what you have today. And the things we're going to talk about today are just things for you to notice. You may not even change, but you notice. So I just picked this up this morning. I thought this was cute. That's all. That's all you need to learn today. So how did I become an anxiety expert? I just want to share my story because I think there's maybe seeds of inspiration, and I have also been through a lot of things that people are going through right this moment. I became an expert at anxiety, not by choice, but it was by going through my own journey that took me to some very dark and difficult places in my life. I always maintained a therapy practice, but I did also have the entrepreneurial bug. And I actually met Randy about 15 years ago when I joined the Brooklyn Chamber, because I live in Greenpoint, and at the time I saw Greenpoint could use a good health club. And the Chamber was helping me then. That what started out as a germ of an idea became a full-fledged business venture, and I spent the next 4 to 5 years immersed in the health club industry. I wrote 40-page business plan. I built a great team. I chased investors. I had architectural plans. I signed a lease on a building and paid rent on an empty space for many months. So I did that. And at the same moment in time, I was in my mid-40s and decided, my husband and I decided if we wanted to be parents, it was now or never. So we took that on, and I got pregnant. And up until the last week of my pregnancy, I was still raising money. But a week after my son was born is when it hit the fan. I get a call from an angry investor. This is taking too long. I'm pulling out. I get a call from my business partner. It's taking too long. I'm getting a full-time job. And it all fell like a house of cards. So I do know what it's like. It was impossible to keep going with the new baby. And I knew when to fold them. And I know what it's like to have a business fail, something you spend years on, and overnight you lose it all. I know what it's like to have an identity as an entrepreneur and then feel like that maybe that's gone. I was stay-at-home mom. I didn't know. I felt shamed. I felt like a failure. I felt like I let a lot of people down. But I lost one baby and I had another. I didn't know how to take care of a baby. I didn't know how to be a mother. So I was now in new terra and suffered with very severe postpartum anxiety. And I had to figure out how I was going to take care of this baby and move on in my new reality. And it really truly was 1 minute at a time, 1 moment at a time, and 1 day at a time. I built my mom muscle and rebuilt my professional life. But little did I know at that time, not only would I learn to be a great mom to my son, but that devastation would direct the course, and becoming a mother would direct the course of some of the most meaningful work that I do today. That out of that devastating time came some new muscles in a better path. And might I add that all happened at the very end of 2007. So we all know what comes next. And the recession hit, and in my home, it went from bad to worse. And I'm not even going to talk about today what my husband's business went through. He's a photographer. So, we're both self-employed, and we're both, going through what you all are going through. However, as most people know me, I am a positive, optimistic person. And how I got to be there, there's one more piece to mention. I also had very years of a serious undiagnosed illness, Lyme disease, that was crippling at times and truly broke my spirit. But these pivotal times in my life helped me to learn how to move forward while still suffering and while still facing uncertainty. So I'm going to share with you today things that we are using now. So let's get towards that. But I do want to talk a little bit what's on your mind. You have worries, you have fears, and those are at the root of anxiety and stress. And what we don't have enough time to talk about today, a lot of our fears start early in our life, things we've gone through in our life, and they're just really exacerbated now and heightened in the new reality. Everybody has very personal and specific fears, even though we all still have the what ifs. The what if I lose my job? What if I lose my business? What if I lose my income? What if I lose my partner, or I get sick, or someone close to me dies? We're all thinking about those what ifs. Underneath all the what ifs are the fear that I can't handle it. If I lose my business, I won't be able to handle it. If I lose someone I love, I won't be able to handle it. But our work today, and I'm here to remind you that you have handled obstacles and hard times, and you will handle what happens next. Something to think about. And I know this because you're human. I know that you've handled hard things because you're in business, you're an entrepreneur. You have had a lot, just like my story. You all have your own stories, and you have made it through. How I want you to think about how did you get through? What helped you get through it? And just remind yourself you've been there. So, but how do we continue to build your resiliency? Everything in the world now feels most things feel out of our control. Even buying toilet paper feels out of our control. But there's two things you can do. The first one is you can choose what you're going to focus your thoughts on. That's a choice. It's hard, but you can do it. And then you're going to choose what actions you take in the moment. Those are two choices you have. With all we have is the present moment. The next moment is uncertain at any point in time. So some of the strategies we're going to talk about are how to bring your mind back to the moment so it's not spiraling and worrying about the what ifs in the future and the things you can't control. And like building any muscles, it takes intention, it takes a lot of exercise and repetition. Every moment is an opportunity for choice. So are you going to choose to focus on the negativity and all the things that are going wrong right now? And there's a lot. Or are you going to try is the key word, to think about the positive and all the good things that are happening? Like all the good the Brooklyn Chamber is doing. Thank God we have them, right? But you're going to be looking at things also in your own life, or you're going to clap at 7 o'clock. And that's something that's happening here and in other parts of the world. You also can choose what actions you want to take. So we don't know if they're the right choice or not, but that is within your control. How you're going to use your time and what's the next step that you plan. So I just picked this up. Actually, I got this from Lori because she had me join COVID coping, and it's all this funny, great stuff. And this is from there too. But I love this because we can't control the amount of toilet paper in the store, but we can control, and you'll see where we can talk about your positive attitude, turning off the news, things like that. So I put this up here because I find Viktor Frankl a very inspiring person. He was an Austrian psychiatrist who kept himself alive in Auschwitz by cultivating an optimistic mind. And he writes about what he learned in the camps, in man's search for meaning. And how in the concentration camps did he cultivate an optimistic mind? Well, he did small things. He knew the Nazis could not control his thoughts. Only he could. So he decided in his mind to talk to his wife They had separated. He didn't know what was happening with her. She was pregnant, but it was comforting and made him feel good to talk to his wife. He also, I call it a project. He had a project he was working on in his mind. There was a manuscript that was taken from him right before he got in the camps of a book he was working on. And while he was in the concentration camp, he thought about the book he would rewrite, which is Man's Search for Meaning, when he got out. And that having that purpose kept him going. So this is from him. I just think this is a great quote. So some of you may say, well, what's wrong with being pessimistic? Isn't that being realistic? I would also say, but isn't optimistic being realistic too? But what happens when you're feeling pessimistic? It keeps you from recognizing possibilities. That's one of the things that's calming to the mind are solutions. What can I do in the next moment? Can I call someone at the chamber and find out how I do this SBA loan? You know, if you're feeling negative, you are gonna feel helpless and more stuck. So as you strengthen this optimistic muscle, what's gonna happen? You're gonna start to notice things that you do have, not what you don't have. You wake up in the morning, your heart is beating, your mind is working, and maybe you have food in your refrigerator, and maybe you have this community. I mean, there's a lot, and then when your mind starts to think about all you do have, then you're just gonna more and more notice all that you do have. And then you can focus on that abundance and gratitude for it. You'll feel more energized because you're taking these small actions, which are energizing, and you'll feel empowered. And most importantly, you'll see, when you feel more positive, you see more possibilities. Your mind is calmer and more open to solutions. Now, I'm not expecting anybody to be Viktor Frankl or Winston Churchill, but I think they have some wise words to offer us. Maybe we'll pause here, Samara, if there's anything we want to revisit, any comments that have come up.
I mean, the only comments that we're really getting, some people really like some of the quotes you put up and asked if maybe we can put them up at the end. But I do want to remind everyone that we will be posting this webinar to our website within a few hours of it ending, so you will be able to go through all of this on your own. I mean, I think we should keep going for now.
Okay, cool. So let's get to it. We're going to get to the tools. What are these tools to feel better, to feel more positive? So I'm just going to go, you can look at the list, but we'll go through them one by one. So the first one is you have the free will to manage your news intake. Maybe you want to be informed and you do it in a small dose. Maybe you like Cuomo, so you listen to him. But the amount of news is really important to minimize. And I want you guys to notice when you're reading the news or listening to the news, what you feel in your body. If your chest tightens, your stomach's churning, you start to feel your heart's racing, that's a sign you've taken in too much news. And what happens is that you're bringing trauma into your mind as well as your home. And you're going to feel more helpless because you can't control any things you're reading about. The other thing is you may need to mute some of your friends on Facebook or your social media. There are always hard times to post about, even before this pandemic. And there are always those people, we need them in the world, who are angry and they're upset about things that have gone on way before this, but doesn't mean that needs to be you right now. So keep the people on that make you feel good and use social media to connect, but not to take in more news.
Diana, there's something else though that I'd like to put in there about the social media, because I think that's a really good point. You know, news includes social media these days. But also, and I can just say from a personal perspective, right? Some of the things that are not helping me right now are seeing all the creative projects that people are doing with their children that I don't have time to do. So, just to put out there that I will just speak for myself, but if you have any advice on that sort of struggle because you want to stay in touch with people in your life, you want to, see what's happening in the world around you when you're stuck inside, as many of us are, but how do you do that? What about people that are posting positive things?
Right. And people are, well, thank you, Samara. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling that way. People have felt that way before the pandemic on social media, right? Oh, this one is making our lives feel like we're not doing enough. So that's a hard one. It just knowing that person, and again, is putting their best face forward. The rest of the day, it could be a shit show in their house. I mean, really, just because they made a batch of cookies with their kids, or their kids are really doing the online learning, doesn't mean the rest of their life hasn't gone to pot. So keep that in mind. It is a bit of a minefield. So compare and despair. And that's why I said earlier, try not to compare yourselves to others. And that goes for always, right? But even more now, because yeah, Samara, if you're working full time and you got little kids, and she and I have talked about this. There's a lot of people, a lot of you listening, you have children or you may have young children, and there's just no way. There's just no way. They're not getting education. They're not getting those crafty projects. They're not making a quilt with you. You can only do you where you are with what you have. So we'll talk more about that, but thank you for bringing that up.
And I do have a question from somebody in the audience that I'd like to bring up. So there's literature around slowing down during the pandemic for the sake of your own sanity. However, there are many people relying upon me to be more productive than ever at work. How do you balance slowing down while continuing to be more reliable to coworkers and family members? That's a great question.
So, it kind of goes back to, you have to remind yourself, even if your job is depending on all this productivity, you can only do what you can do. Maybe then you're afraid you're going to lose your job. But I hope that the employers understand that's just impossible. It's impossible to do all that. And we're going to get to some of the next things that may actually help with that.
Okay, and then depending on how this goes, I may push you more on that, because I think it's all well and good to say in an ideal world that your employer, of course, is going to be understanding, but the employer is also under a lot of stress and has a lot of, I think I get the sense from everyone that I know that's working that it's like we're all in survival mode right now, and so work is even crazier than ever, and people don't know what's going to happen. But I'll pause there so you can keep going through your presentation.
That's a good one. Bring that one back up, because it is infectious, right? That Randy, leadership, comes from the head down. And so if your employer is freaked out and they're pressuring you, or they're angry, or they have unrealistic expectations, part of it is knowing, you're going to have to be able to try to not absorb and know this is all that I can do, even while you have all that pressure. It's not humanly possible. But we'll come back to that.
Yeah,
we'll bring that back up. So this is one of the ways that's going to help you to calm down, back to your point, so that you can be more productive. I'm just doing that because what does that mean, right? But if your employer is coming at you, well, maybe we'll stick with that example. How do you remain calm, or you just know you have this pile of stuff to get through in the day? So these are some methods. Deep breathing. Okay, it sounds simple, it sounds easy. Everyone does have the time. A lot of these things people are going to say, I really don't have the time. It can be 1 minute. It's free. You can find apps. I have them listed below. And it really slows down the stress response in the moment. It calms your central nervous system, and it will relax your mind and body. So when your boss is coming at you, or when your work is piling up, you're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about a schedule. You're going to step away from your computer, and you're going to breathe, and then you can come back, and you may feel more productive. I mean, that really is a tool to help you keep moving forward. Because when you're anxious, we can't think straight, so that kind of leads me into the next tool, which is, before we get to the next tool, we're all going to breathe together. I want to prepare everybody. It's just going to take a few seconds. Let me just switch screens here. All right, so that's all that it is. And just do a few rounds of that while you're feeling so under pressure. And most people will feel some calm in the moment. I hope you got a few seconds there, because it's also empowering to know now you have this tool. There is something I can do to calm down, to move forward, to be productive. And the next one is along those lines. Maybe it takes a few more minutes. People hear a lot about meditation, but now more than ever, I think a lot of people have been turning to it. There's a lot of free stuff on YouTube. You can listen to Deepak on YouTube. John Kabat-Zinn, he did a worldwide meditation that I participated in. 22,000 people. It was really profound. But why it helps is because it does reduce stress and anxiety. It does also calm your central nervous system down so that you can make way for clear thinking and creativity. And creativity may be ideas that come to you, even how you're going to manage today. It doesn't mean how to revamp your whole business, but creativity can mean, okay, what can I do today that's maybe more possible than yesterday? And a lot of successful people have a meditation practice because it does help them make better decisions and be more productive. And that seems like a paradox, right? Calm down to speed up. But you're not really speeding up, you're being more productive. And I just want to personally endorse, if you see here, I have Oprah and Deepak 21 Days Meditation Experience. That's the name of the app. And right now they have free Hope in Uncertain Times. It's so spot on. It's so calming. Even just the sound of Deepak's voice is very soothing. And they will guide you through it. So you don't have to be good at meditation. People say, I'm not good at meditating. My mind is wandering. That's the whole point of everybody's mind is wandering. And it's to help you bring you back to the moment and feel calm in the moment. It's going to wander, and then you're going to bring back to your breathing. So it's another tool that will help you feel empowered.
Diana, just quickly before you move on, I don't know if there are other people on this that feel as I do. I'm a bit of a skeptic in terms of meditation, but I know you're going to cover this later, but I just want to put out there, one of the things that at least occurs to me is, as I'm looking at this, is like, okay, that sounds nice. I didn't have time to meditate before. Like, how am I supposed to have time to meditate now? Like, what are you talking about? And I know you're going to talk about that later, but I did just want to sort of flag for people that I don't think I'm alone in having less time now than I've ever had before. And so it's very hard to grapple with like taking up anything new like this right now.
So how much time do you feel that meditation would take?
20 minutes.
Okay. So it doesn't have to take 20 minutes. NPR did a 1-minute meditation. My husband told me about, and in 1 minute, he felt better. So I think that's thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, but all these things, and again, all these things, they all sound nice, right? I'm just planting seeds because maybe, I'm sure that after dinner and your kids go to bed, you're not heading right to bed, right? Maybe you're watching TV, you're reading a book, or maybe you don't have time for any of that. But if you can find 3 minutes, because these apps have a 1 minute, a 3 minute meditation, that's it before you go to bed, because that's a good time to calm your mind, right? So, or your kids wake up my kid wakes up at 5:30 every friggin' day. So I can't get up earlier than him. But if your kid sleeps till 7 or 6:30, can you get up at 6:25 and for 3 minutes do some deep breathing? That's it. If you check the meditation apps out on the weekend, check them out on the weekend, you'll see there's a very short. It doesn't have to be a full-on 20 minutes. Okay, the next one. This is the same category, right? Oops. I know you don't have time. Although Samara did tell me she's exercising some, so she found that time. And again, I would say, okay, it's got to be realistic, right? 15 minutes, because all these things, and you add them up, when I get to the last one, it might just be 30 minutes. If you do like 2 minutes of breathing, you don't have to do them all. You just do one thing, right? 3 minutes of meditation and 15 minutes, and maybe you move your body twice a week. I'm not saying every day, maybe one day on the weekend, but there's a lot of free stuff on online and YouTube, and you all know the benefits, but it isn't, if you're really suffering, maybe this does need to be, and I don't think Samara's really suffering because I feel her positive. She's being productive and she's got a lot on her plate, but for people who are really suffering, it is a natural antidepressant and anti-anxiety, and it releases all those positive hormones, and again, it helps reduce stress and tension. And right now, an exercise also helps with our immunity, so it helps with that, and it will help you sleep, because that's the vicious cycle, right? If you're so wound up and you have so much on your mind, you're not sleeping well, and now you're in a vicious cycle where you're less productive. Okay, and so obviously as a therapist, I feel strongly about this one, and this may fall in that category. I don't have time. But it doesn't have to be an hour session, and maybe there's somebody that you, again, talk to for 15 minutes, and maybe it's a family or friend, a friend or family member on the weekend, and you schedule one call, different people, and Samara brings up a great point, because everybody's in a different place right now. Some people don't have any work to do. She has a lot of work to do, and she has 2 young kids. Then there's other people who are alone in isolation. I know people who told me they're stir crazy and bored. It's a whole spectrum of people. So, but if you're feeling down or isolated, just talking to the right friend or family member. Again, you don't want to talk to somebody if they're bringing you down and you absorb. It's infectious, right? You absorb it. That's going to be hard. But you might feel good checking in on somebody. Now you've helped them and they feel good. You've checked in on them. So there's some mutual reciprocity that feels good. And talking to a professional can really, for someone really suffering, or you don't have to be really suffering, I mean, who couldn't use extra support now. And there are therapists who, if you call that hotline, you see at the bottom that Cuomo helped set up. I did speak to a lovely woman, Diane, who told me that, it's crisis, or it can be referral. So you help somebody in the moment, but it also can help you find somebody who's cheap or free. And then there's a lot of people like myself who have a sliding scale. You can get reimbursed insurance. But the reason why that time investment can make such a profound difference is because a good therapist is trained to help you work through the motions and get some further insight about your own fears and anxieties that are perpetuating and keeping you from even deep breathing. I mean, if it's too hard physically, because some people, their hearts are racing, they're short of breath, they really physically can't even do some deep breathing, then they can help you work through what is really troubling you, and that will help your productivity, and that will help you move forward, professionally. So that's
Diana, we have a question just right
Great.
along those lines. So somebody wrote, they have a family member who's been struggling with mental illness before COVID-19, and her situation's being exacerbated by this, and she really needs help. Do you think the best resource is the one that you just put up there on the screen, calling the state, or are there other resources you might recommend? I mean, like, what if someone's really spiraling and their family's concerned about them? Is that a good way to go, or is there other advice that you might give?
No, I think, thank you. That's a great question. I think that that family member is spot on. They should, if their family member is open to talking to somebody, they should try to help them get a therapist. I really do have to put a caveat in here, and I hate to say this, but not all therapists are good therapists. I've had my own experience. I had during some of those hard times, somebody made it worse. But here's a way to get a good therapist is a recommendation. If they know somebody who, sees somebody that they like, and also that phone number. Here's another way to find.
Can you just give me that phone number one more time? Somebody said they couldn't see it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, I'm putting it in the chat box too. 1844.
Yeah. That when you call a therapist, that doesn't mean that's your therapist. You're not committing to that person. You're just having an initial call to see how you feel. And they shouldn't charge you for that. I don't think they would. It can be a half an hour, 15 minutes. If you feel when you get off the phone a little better, a little hopeful, you feel they understand you, then they can, maybe that family member calls and looks for a therapist first and says, how do you work? I have this family member. Can you tell me how you're going to help them? What do you do? What's the methods that you use? Those are some good ways of judging if it is a stranger and not through a referral. And, whoever that had that question, also my emails at the end, feel free. I also, not just for myself, I know a lot of great people, like people that I feel really good making referrals to. I don't know what their fee schedules are, but that's another issue. So, but they do have to trust their own instincts. Does this person feel right? And maybe you go through talking to 3 different people. There's a lot of I think there's like 6,000 people that volunteered for that phone number. So not all of them are therapists. A lot of them, as Diane told me, some of them are social workers who have not done therapy, but they can refer. And they've been trained in a crisis, to handle a crisis. So I hope that's helpful. I like this because it helps me, but I think it helps a lot of people to have structure to your day and help you feel less overwhelmed. So you know what your plan is. Doesn't mean it's going to go according to plan, but the people maybe who don't have work, they're out of work right now, this may be more for them, or the people who have too much work. It really can apply to either. And I would make the plan in the morning before you check your phone, your emails, your news, so that you're in a calmer state. And you want to, in your plan, just think about your day in blocks of time. Your productivity time, maybe it's 9 to 12, you need to be at the Brooklyn Chamber. So what happens before that? Maybe nothing. Maybe your kids get breakfast and they're set up in front of the TV or online. But if you can carve out a few minutes before 9, I'm just making this time up, you can do some breathing. You got to schedule in some lunch and dinner. I know everybody's worried, or some people are worried about the COVID-19 packing on, but there's other people who are going too long, or doing both, packing it on, but they're still going too long without eating. And that can, especially people with low blood sugar issues, you'll feel more anxious and more depressed. So schedule your eating in, and again, the moving, again, could be short. When is a good time? Never. Maybe you just can't. And maybe this is weekend time with your family or friends. Maybe it's dinner time. That's it. Or it's on the weekend, you schedule a call with your mom or your cousin. And again, if you have children, it depends on their age. Maybe you have a baby. I mean, that's really challenging. Everything goes out the window then. Maybe your kids are grown and they're older, but if you have young children, make a little schedule for them just so you can see where yours can interface with yours. So it's realistic. And then here's the last, and then we'll take some questions. The nighttime plan. We all know why good sleep is restorative, but especially now people are having insomnia. They have so much on their mind. They have so much worry. So we want to calm down the mind before bed. And this doesn't take any time. Again, no news before bed doesn't take any time. I also recommend keeping your phone out of the bedroom. People before this got in a habit of scrolling, reading, whatever they're doing, but we all know about the blue light and how that disrupts sleep. But it also just knowing it's there, sitting there at your night table, then can keep you thinking about things that you should be doing or you need to do. So you want to put it out of your bedroom. If you need an alarm, get an alarm clock. And maybe in the evening, you're shifting your state, because we can shift our state. Maybe you're watching something funny, you're reading a book, a nice relaxing book, or you're just doing 2 minutes of breathing, box breathing that we did. If you have time, Epsom salts are great because it's made of magnesium, and magnesium is a calming mineral. And the biggest organ we have is our skin. And so in a bath, you're absorbing through your whole body a very calming mineral. And that is why, this is for people who really need to calm down. It's to be very relaxing. And this is the last part of my recommendations, is a journal. And again, it goes, I don't have time. I'm saying one thing. These are things to think about doing even 2 years down the road. It doesn't have to be now. But to shift to a positive mind are to be writing down, because research shows what we write down has a more profound impact on how we feel and what we do. So not just thinking it, but writing it down. Things that happened today, maybe there's 3 things that you feel good about. You got your kids some lunch. You called the Brooklyn Chamber, and now you understand how to fill out the SBA loan. I'm just making this up. Or maybe you wrote some emails, you had to get out. Or if you are working full time, you feel good about that. You got a lot of work done today. But they can be small things, but it's to remind yourself of what you have within you and what you're capable of doing. And it helps your brain while you sleep process positive things, right? That you have kids to worry about, that you have a bed to sleep in, that you have food in the refrigerator. So you're focusing on what you do have. And that cool thing is your subconscious is doing work for you. And if you're filling your subconscious when you sleep with news and, projects other people are doing that you're not doing, but more the fears, you're going to have nightmares where you're not going to get good sleep. So that is, this is the last one. This is, and because I didn't say this earlier, I don't want anyone to feel that I am minimizing their experience with all these ideas, that this is extraordinarily hard times, and you may be sick yourself. You may have the virus and be really suffering. You may have lost your business. And I really deeply, sincerely offer my sympathies. And there may be nothing I say that is going to make you feel better now. But what I can offer, and this is particularly if you realize that you may never recover your business, I want you to think about, I'm just planting seeds for thinking about these things. What are the qualities that you have inside of you that helped you build that business? Or if you lost your job, what are the qualities that you have that made you good at what you did? That's who you are. Whether you had a company making cleaning products or you were a massage therapist, it's really who you are is what helped. That's not your full identity. Your full identity are your values and your special qualities that everybody has. And I want you to think about them, because if you do need to rebuild from the scratch, those are the qualities that you're going to take with you into your future. And write them down and remind yourself when you need to. So that's what we're doing. Maybe we're not dancing, but we're learning how everybody's like, can't wait till this is over. And of course, none of us can wait till it's over. Is it going to be over? When is it going to be over? We don't know. So we have to learn how to be now. And this is a summary. But maybe now I have I don't know if I need to reread this, but it's really about the two things you can do is what you choose to think about and what actions you choose to take. And then there's some book recommendations which have helped me when I was suffering. And the last one is a silly one. I love David Sedaris. He make you laugh your ass off out loud. So anyway, we all use some humor here or there. So I don't know, Samara, maybe now is a good time to open it up for some Q&A.
Yeah, we had a few questions come in. You handled a lot of them. Like there was one from an entrepreneur, and I think you really, and I've heard you speak about this, a number of times in a way that I think makes a lot of sense because, you put, like you said, you lost your baby, which was your business, and then you had a baby. And I think for most entrepreneurs, a lot of their identity is caught up in that. So thank you for addressing how to sort of try and think about all the things that made your business successful in the first place, and that you will be able to do that again because it's you that made it successful in many ways. One of the things that I did just want to, again, emphasize, and this is just me, but the be realistic piece on the summary slide that's up right now. There are a few folks that called in, so I'm not sure if they can see it, but be realistic about what you can do. So the last thing that you want people to take away from this is, oh my God, this is all this stuff that I don't have time to try and figure out. It's just try one of them or two of, like, whatever you can do is better than nothing. Do you have any support recommendations for support groups, specifically around the pandemic anxiety, COVID-19 anxiety? And do you have any groups that you might recommend or resources that you could put out there for listeners?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say that I am starting groups. I have a group I started. I think it's happening in real time for a lot of therapists. I haven't, because I'm working on my own groups. I haven't been research, but I can research where else. I'm sure there are groups starting that, yeah, I don't have that resource though. But anyway, but someone can email me and I will do some research for them.
Okay. Here's another question for you. How do you create boundaries with people who are relying on you for comfort and help when you're really stressed out?
Excellent question. So we have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first. And this is a hard one because maybe it's an elderly parent. And, as a therapist, new therapists go through this. They take on all their patients' emotions and they don't know how to draw that boundary. So it is unfortunately something that takes time to work on. But if you can know that if you take on their suffering, you help them less. To be empathic doesn't mean that you have to feel what they're feeling. It just means that you are going to help them with what you can, and remind yourself there is a limit to what you can do. And if it's breathing, doing some breathing before that call, or however you're interfacing with them. Maybe they're in your household, and that makes it really hard. But there may be seeds of something that you can do that are relaxing, and you do have to remind yourself that you have to try to draw an emotional boundary. And let me give one quick example, and this may sound really cold-hearted, and it's survival. It's called survival. In the concentration camps, what Viktor Frankl noticed is that the prisoners, at some point, they hit a level of apathy. And when they would see, I hate to end this on such a morbid note, but they see the bodies piled up, they stopped feeling sad, and they started to think, well, does that person have some shoes I could have? That's survival. They weren't being cold-hearted. And so if there's someone in your life that depends on you, it's not being cold-hearted to try to emotionally set a boundary within yourself and say, I can only do so much, and this is the most I can do.
Okay, we're almost at 1, but there are 2 or 3 questions that I just want to, maybe we can do a lightning round here. For some, this is one, for some, stress drives us to find solutions that makes us feel better. Can you advise on how to mitigate that complex relationship?
That's a great question. Well, stress is mixed in with forward motion. And I would say, my own anxieties propelled me to find these answers. So I think people can use a certain amount of energy to help them move forward. I would say that when you're in a more positive place, that anxiety, you can still have both at the same time. So that's the thing too I want to emphasize. Doesn't mean like, oh my God, how am I ever going to be positive? You don't go from one to another. You're not like all a pessimist and all an optimist. You can feel both at the same time. You can be scared and anxious and keep moving forward and keep trying some breathing or keep talking to some. And that's what I had to do. I mean, I could spend an hour telling you about my path. I really put it in a minute, but I was in the throes of a 24-hour-a-day panic attack. My heart never stopped racing. I did stop sleeping, but I still had to take steps to move forward and learn how to live in that state. So it's possible to do both. I don't know if I answered that question.
Yeah, thank you. So here's one that it's difficult to express what I'm going through with my hardships with friends and family when what they're going through just seems so much worse, where people they know people passing away from COVID-19. How can you avoid minimizing your own daily challenges when it feels like it's just not as significant as what you're seeing in the news or hearing from other people in your life?
That's such an excellent question. There's a lot of guilt right now. People, there are a lot of people that feel that way. And that goes back to compare and despair, that your experience is still your experience. And there will always be people in the world that you can compare yourself to that have it so much worse. And you have to tell yourself that doesn't mean that what you're going through isn't hard for you. It's your life. And it's no one else's. So it really goes back to reinforcing your own feelings matter. They're not less than, just because you haven't lost a loved one or you're not sick, or that doesn't mean that you're not suffering, right? So it's hard not to feel guilty, but again, try to respect your feelings. They matter. You only have one life, and yours matter just as much as somebody who's, that you've been comparing yourself to, even friends and family. Maybe you though need to talk to somebody who understands that and really respects that you're suffering just as much. The circumstances are not what determines the degree of suffering. Someone's circumstances. It really has to do with their own makeup, because, and I'm going to say this quick, it came from one of my favorite books that helped me at a hard time, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And in the book, they give examples of two women in middle age who lost their spouse. And one, she just kept telling herself, I can't go on. Nobody wants to be around me. I'm not going to be able to stay at my job. And all those things happened because she was in such a negative place that it was infecting others. And she was felt very much a victim. The other woman, she grieved. She always missed her husband, but she learned to build some new muscles and felt good about moving forward in her in new work. She had never worked before. Now she had some work. She reached. It took a long time. So I know I kind of went far afield from that question, which was there's a reason I brought that up. About comparing yourself to others. That you can see they both have the same exact thing happen to them. But it's the suffering of the first one was so much greater because of who she was, right? It was not like she had different circumstances. So that's what I want to say, that your own circumstances don't determine the degree. If you're suffering, you're suffering. If you feel bad, if you're anxious, you're terrified about the future, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
And I think that, at least I can appreciate, don't compare yourself to others, right? You're living through whatever your reality is. And, I know that's something that I think about a lot when I hear from other parents that are doing whatever they're doing to school their children and the things that I'm able or not able to do. If I start comparing myself to anybody good or bad, it's not helpful. So I really appreciate that. All right, this is the last question before we close up. This is from somebody who would like some recommendations on podcasts or audiobooks. Maybe that's something we could follow up on later, but she's having a hard time getting inspired to take daily actions or work toward a goal. She is a massage therapist and she doesn't see people anymore. She relied on in-person interactions for inspiration and very much bases the self-worth on how much she can accomplish. And so how can she get some feelings of accomplishment and fulfillment right now without being able to do that work?
I feel like I want to talk to her because
if this is your question, email Diana.
Please email me. I do, we'll call, we'll talk, really, because I would coach her through that, because there's so many people like her that I think I mentioned a massage therapist because they have to see people and there is no work, but it kind of goes back to what drew her to be a massage therapist. Maybe she had health problems, maybe she wanted to help people, and it's when you calm the mind down, and maybe she's somebody who has the time for some meditation practice. And I would check out Oprah and Deepak, I'm telling you, because when you're calm, she may start to think of some idea. She's not going to be able to do massage. There's no way around that. That is absolutely over. But her identity is not, it feels like she's a massage therapist only, but she's so much more. I'm going to talk to her. You're so much more. It's those caring qualities that I'm sure that you have, and that, you're not being able to put to good use, right? You probably felt good that you were making a difference and helping someone feel better after a session. So I guess I want to coach you through, what thinking about, and how do it may not come to you, right? But how do you use your time now? You may be somebody who could do some of these, who has time for some of these things, talking to people, reaching out, maybe their mentors, talk to other people in the field of massage therapy. I know a lot of people. I rented an office in a great place. Shout out to Momoko, that I used to work out of. They're all acupuncture. You know, what are they doing? So they might be good people to talk to now and find out what they're doing.
All right, thank you. We're out of time. Could you do me a favor and put your email address back up on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, and then I'm going to turn it over to Randy to wrap it up. But thank you so much, Diana.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Diana, thank you. Very, very helpful. We got such encouraging comments in the chat. They're encouraging for us as chamber staff, right? Because, you know, we're trying to do this and bring information and resources that are helpful. So just to hear such wonderful comments in the chat is just encouraging and motivating for us. So thank you for that. You know, we didn't touch on pets. I'm surprised we didn't touch a little bit on pets. You know, because we see a lot of stories too that, you know, people are getting pets or they're just spending more time with their pets. And some people have even said this is a conspiracy by pets, you know, to get their humans to stay at home. My favorite meme though is the cats, that cat meme that says, "Get a human," they said. "They're never home," they said. And then, you know, the cat's got that expression on their face because now we've disrupted their kind of routine as well. But anything you want to say on pets, Diana?
I do. I thank you for bringing that up. I wish if we had like 2 minutes or more time in DPAC and Oprah, you know, I'm not getting paid by them. But on their app, they have 7 days to relieve anxiety and depression, or anxiety and stress on their app. It's I think you have to pay for it. It's a really good one. And in there, DPAC has a list of tips you can do in the moment. And I would have loved to gone through them. And one of them was you know, because pets are in the moment. And when you're with I have 2 cats. I saw Randy, you have a few. You have 3. Yeah, we have Pablo and Carlos. And I honestly don't know what we would do without them right now. They're silly, they're funny, they're bringing a lot of joy. And, you know, take that minute and stop and hang out with your cat or your dog, or if you have a lizard. But it's very therapeutic, and I'm really glad you brought that up. Extraordinary, especially if you're single. Maybe you foster a pet right now.
Right. All right, Diana, thank you so much. Thank you to Samara. I should acknowledge Ty Lundy, who's also really the person who puts on all of these webinars for us. She's our events director. So thank you, Ty, for once again putting on another stellar webinar.
Uh-oh, Randy's frozen. So if he doesn't unfreeze, I'll take it up from there. So thank you to Ty, our director of events, who's been putting on amazing webinars.
We've got others coming.
They're up, sort of slowly coming back. No.
No, I think he's.
All right. So we'll end it there. We will put this up on our website within a few hours, brooklynchamber.com. Thank you again to Diana. Thank you, Ty, for putting another great webinar. And to everyone who is following us, check out our events page on our website. Follow us on the Brooklyn app. Join the Brooklyn app so that you can come join us for some other webinars, because really what we're very focused on right now at the Chamber is getting you the tools that you need to get through this hard time. So thank you for joining us.